Okay, we're going to do our bind off. And to do our bind off, I wanted to show you this real quick if you can see it. You can see our pattern forming here. Now I'm just going to do this and then I'm going to show you where we're at before we do our bind off and do our bind off. Now I'm just going to bind off this little strip. I'm not doing a whole project because everything I'm showing you in detail is what you need to do for the scarf. So there's really no point in me showing you the whole scarf tutorial. So what we're going to do next is we are going, after you do these 4 rows and you get your scarf as long as you want it, before you bind off, you need to do 2 rows again like you did in the beginning before we do the bind off. So what we're going to do is we're going to do all purl overs. After you finish row 4 and you get to the end where you want to bind off, you do all purl overs. So we're going to slip that first peg right here. We'll do all purl overs. You remember we did this in the beginning. So I'm going to finish that and I will be right back. Okay, I finished my row 4. I'm pretending I'm at the end of my scarf. I did my whole row of purl overs. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to do 1 row of wrap 2, purl 1, knit them off and purl 1 like I did in the beginning. So we're going to slip this one. We're going to make sure you get that. If you're working with this same yarn or a lace weight yarn with a yarn like this, make sure you're holding them both and getting them around the pegs. Okay, so we're going to wrap these 2, knit them off, purl the second peg, wrap 2, knit them off, purl the second peg, and we're going to continue to do that until we get back to peg 1 and we're going to U-wrap peg 1. So I'm going to finish that and I'll be right back and we will take it off the loom. Okay, I have finished those 2 rows after my last row 4. Purl overs, 1 row purl overs, 1 row of wrap 2, knit off, purl the second peg. Now we're going to take it off the loom. I tried a couple of bind offs and I chose using pearls. Now with that said, if you had rather use a certain type of bind off, I'm not going to begrudge you of that, changing that part, as long as you leave the main pattern and the setup rows the same, because I know everybody has a favorite bind off. But I will tell you this is knitted this way and set up this way for a reason. So it will look balanced. If you start playing with that cast on, it may not look balanced. If you do decide to, please do a swatch first. Do a 4x4 swatch. This using a 3 and this 1 weight is 4 inches, so you just need to do it 4 inches long. If you do it in a different type of yarn, you'll need to adjust for that because it's going to change the size possibly. Okay, and I'm going to show you a swatch I did in a 4 weight in a minute. We're going to measure it and see. I haven't measured it yet, so we'll see. We'll be surprised together. Okay, so to bind off, we're going to purl the second peg. We're going to take that loop off that we purled. We'll put it on our first peg, and we're just going to barely snug it up. We're not even going to tighten it up. You see, there's a lot of play in that. We're going to knit it off. So you need to do this loosely, okay? Don't do it when you're stressed. Don't do it if you're nervous. Just be very loosey-goosey about it because you do not want it to be too tight. You want to have some stretch to it. So we're going to do the same thing with the next peg. Put the loop on. You see, I've just barely got that. You see how that's sitting? It's barely sitting on there. And you may even have to put your finger on top of the peg to keep that from flipping off when you flip your loop over. See how it wants to come off because I got it sitting so loose. You see that? That's not too loose. Now that's a little too loose. You might want to snug it up just a hair. You get the hat. You get in the practice of it after you do this enough. You kind of know how loose to make it, but you don't want to make it too loose, but you don't want it real, painfully tight either. Okay. And then you just keep going with this purl over here. Purl your next peg. Pick up your loop off your peg. Put it on your peg before. And I got my lace there. And then flip it over loosely. And I'm going to show you. You see how it's looking? It's loose. It's not too tight. It's got some stretch. Okay, purl loosely. Flip it over. Move it to the next peg. Purl. Top loosely. Purl over. Move it to the next peg. We're going to keep doing this till we get to the end, and I will finish that up and come back. Okay, we now have it off the loom, and this is just a really small sample to show you how it's going to look. This is the bottom, and this is the top with the purl bind off. This is the middle. And I'm going to take the scarf off here and show you. This is where we did the little pigtail stitch and then wrap for alternating for 2 rows, first 1 and 2 rows, and then where we did the wrap 2, purl 1 on the last 2 rows, those 4 pegs in the middle. And this creates what kinda looks like a cable. There is a little hole there in the middle. You could possibly steam this or something, or block it somehow. You'd have to be careful because it's got acrylic. You wouldn't want to kill your acrylic. But you could wash it and maybe, I don't know, block it. I don't know. I'm not going to mess with it. I don't request to do it. I may do a pattern later where I kind of try to open that up a little bit more. But you can see it does follow kind of a cable pattern. It goes around like this. You see that? Kind of snakes around. Then it goes around like this, and it goes around like this. So it does kind of look like a faux cable or cable-like pattern. Okay? So, that is how you make the Stormy Lavender Fields Scarf. Now I'm going to show you the pattern recap again and tell you what we need to do for each row. And then I'm going to give you some more options if you can't use wool.